This is Talk 6 from Knowing and Seeing by the Venerable Pa-Auk Sayadaw. It's entitled How You See the Links of Dependent Origination. And this chapter looks like it has a lot of footnotes, which you'll just have to see the book for, as I'll just read the main part. Introduction. In our last talk, we discussed how to discern mentality, nama, and in the talk before that, how to discern materiality, rupa. If you're able to discern mentality and materiality in the way then described, you will also be able to discern their causes. This means discerning dependent origination. Dependent origination is about how causes and effects operate over the three periods of past, present, and future. The Buddha taught 4 methods to discern dependent origination, according to the character of his listeners, and there is a 5th method taught by the Venerable Sariputta, recorded in the Patisamhita Magga. It would take some time to explain the many methods in detail, so we shall look at only the 2 methods we at Pa-Auk monasteries teach most often to yogis. They are what we call the Venerable Sariputta's 5th method, and then what we call the 1st method taught by the Buddha in, for example, the Mahanidana Sutta in the Digha Nikaya, in the Nidhanavaga in the Samyutta Nikaya. Both methods involve discerning the 5 aggregates, khandha, of the present, of the past, and of the future, discerning which of them is cause and which is effect. When you can do this, you can also learn how to discern dependent origination in the other ways taught in the suttas and commentaries. The 5th method, the 3 rounds of dependent origination. Dependent origination consists of 12 factors. They can be said to comprise 3 rounds, 2 rounds of causes, 5 causes, and 1 round of results, 5 results. Number 1, the defilements round. Sub number 1, ignorance, 2, craving, clinging. And number 2, the kama round. Number 1, volitional formations. Number 2, kama process existence. Number 3, the results round. Number 1, consciousness. Number 2, mentality, materiality, namarupa. Number 3, the 6 sense spaces. Number 4, contact. And number 5, feeling. The defilements round is the cause for the kama round, which is the cause for the results round, which is, in other words, birth, aging, and death, the 11th and 12th factors. The discernment of dependent origination involves seeing the sequence of rounds and starts with discernment of the past. How you discern your past life. To discern the past, you begin by making an offering of either candles, flowers, or incense at a pagoda or to a Buddha image. You should make a wish for the rebirth you desire, for example, to become a monk, nun, man, woman, or deva. Afterwards, you should go and sit in meditation and enter the 4th jhana until the light is bright, brilliant, and radiant. Then discern internal and external mentality, materiality again and again. This is necessary because if you cannot discern external mentality, materiality, you will have great difficulty discerning past mentality, materiality. That is because the discernment of past mentality, materiality is similar to the discernment of external mentality, materiality. Then you should discern the mentality, materiality that occurred when you made the offering at the pagoda or Buddha image as if they were external objects. When doing this, an image of yourself at the time of offering will appear. You should discern the 4 elements in that image. When the image breaks into rupa kalapas, discern all the different types of materiality of the 6 doors, especially the 54 types of materiality of the heart base. You will then be able to discern the bhavanga consciousness and the many mind door processes that arise in between. You should look among those many mind door processes searching backwards and forwards until you find the defilements round. Mind door process with 20 mental formations in each impulsion consciousness moment and comma round. Mind door process with 34 mental formations in each impulsion consciousness moment. Let us illustrate with a practical example the case of making an offering of candles, flowers, or incense to a Buddha image and making a wish to be reborn to become a monk. In this case, number 1, ignorance is to deludedly think that a monk truly exists. Number 2, craving is the desire and longing for life as a monk. And 3, clinging is the attachment to life as a monk. These 3, ignorance, craving, and clinging, are all found in consciousness that make up the defilements round. If you had instead made a wish to be reborn, to become a woman, then number 1, ignorance would be to deludedly think that a woman truly exists. Number 2, craving would be the desire and longing for life as a woman. And 3, clinging would be the attachment to life as a woman. In the examples, volitional formation, sankhara, are the wholesome volition, kusala, cetana, of the offering, and kama is their kamic potency. Both are found in the consciousnesses that make up the kama round of dependent origination. When you are thus able to discern the mentality materiality of the defilements round and kama round of the recent past, you should go back to the more distant past, to some time previous to the offering, and in the same way discern mentality materiality. Then go back a little further again and repeat the process. In this way, you discern the mentality materiality of 1 day ago, 1 week ago, 1 month ago, 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and so on. Eventually, you will be able to discern right back to the mentality materiality of the rebirth linking consciousness that arose at the conception of your present life. When looking for the causes of conception, you go back even further and see either the mentality materiality of the time near death in your previous life or the object of the near-death impulsion consciousness. There are 3 possible objects for the near-death impulsion consciousness. Number 1, kama. The mental formations of a kama you performed earlier in this life or a previous life. For example, you may recollect the hatred associated with slaughtering animals, happiness associated with offering food to bhikkhus, or tranquility associated with meditation. Number 2, kama sign. An image associated with a kama you performed earlier in this life or a previous life. A butcher may see a butcher's knife or hear the screams of animals about to be slaughtered. A doctor may see patients. A devotee of the Triple Gem may see a bhikkhu, a pagoda, a Buddha image, flowers, an object offered. And a meditator may see the pativanga nimitta of his meditation subject. Number 3, a destination sign. A vision of your destination where you are about to be reborn. For rebirth in hell, you may see fire. For a human, your future mother's womb, usually like a red carpet. For an animal rebirth, forests or fields. For a deva rebirth, deva mansions. The object appears because of the kamic potency that produced the rebirth linking consciousness. When you discern this, you will be able to discern also the volitional formations and kama that produce the resultant aggregates of this life, and the preceding ignorance, craving, and clinging. And you will discern also the other mental formations of that kama round and defilements round. Examples. What a female yogi discerned. To make this clearer, let us give an example of what one yogi was able to discern. When she discerned the mentality materiality at the time near death, she saw the kama of a woman offering fruit to a Buddhist monk. Then, beginning with the 4 elements, she examined further the mentality materiality of that woman. She found that the woman was a very poor and uneducated villager who had reflected on her state of suffering and had made an offering to the monk, with the wish for life as an educated woman in a large town. In this case, number one, deludedly to think that an educated woman in a large town truly exists is ignorance. Number two, the desire and longing for life as an educated woman is craving. Number three, the attachment to life as an educated woman is clinging. Number four, the wholesome act of offering fruit to a Buddhist monk is volitional formations, sankhara. And five, the kama is their kamic potency. In this life, the yogi is an educated woman in a large town in Myanmar. She was able, with right view, to discern directly how the kamic potency of offering fruit in her past life produced the resultant 5 aggregates of this life. The ability to discern causes and effect in this way is called cause apprehending knowledge. And then there's table 1D, death and rebirth, going through many processes and further notes for the table. More footnotes, and now the title or the subheading, What a Male Yogi Discerned. Here is a slightly different example. When a male yogi discerned the mentality materiality at the time near death, he discerned 4 competing kamas. One was the kama of teaching Buddhist text, another teaching Dhamma, another practicing meditation, and finally one teaching meditation. When he investigated which of the 4 kamas had produced the resultant 5 aggregates of this life, he found it was the kama of practicing meditation. When he investigated further to discern which meditation subject had been practiced, he saw it was vipassana meditation, seeing the 3 characteristics, impermanence, anicca, suffering, dukkha, and non-self, anatta, in mentality materiality. With further investigation, he saw that before and after each meditation sitting, he had made the wish to be reborn as a human male, to become a monk, and to be a monk who disseminates the Buddhist teachings. In this case, number 1, deludedly to think that a man, a monk, or a monk who disseminates the Buddhist teaching truly exists is ignorance. Number 2, the desire and longing for a life as a man, a monk, or a monk who disseminates the Buddhist teaching is craving. Number 3, the attachment to life as a man, a monk, or a monk who disseminates the Buddhist teaching is clinging. Number 4, the wholesome act of practicing vipassana meditation is volitional formations. Number 5, the kama is their kamic potency. How you discern more past lives. When you're able to discern your immediate past life in this way and are able to see the 5 causes in the past life, ignorance, craving, clinging, volitional formations, and kama, and their 5 results in this present life, the rebirth linking consciousness, mentality, materiality, the 6 sense bases, contact, and feeling, you need in the same way to discern progressively back to the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and as many lives back as you can. Should you discern a past or future life in the Brahma realm, you will see only 3 sense bases, eye, ear, and heart base, in contrast to the 6 sense bases that you see in the human and deva realms. How you discern your future. Once the power of this vipassana knowledge has been developed by discerning the causes and effects through those past lives, you can, in the same way, discern the causes and effects in future lives. The future you will see, and which may still change, is the result of both past and present causes, one of which is the meditation you are doing. To discern the future, you begin by discerning the present mentality materiality, and then look into the future until the time of death in this life. Then either the kama sign or rebirth sign will appear because of the potency of a particular kama you performed in this life. You will then be able to discern the rebirth linking mentality materiality that will be produced in the future life. You must discern as many lives into the future as it takes till ignorance ceases without remainder. This happens with the attainment of Arhat path, that is, your own attainment of Arhatship. You should then continue discerning into the future until you see that the 5 aggregates, mentality, materiality, cease without remainder, that is, at the end of the Arhat life, at your own parinibbana. You will thus have seen that with the cessation of ignorance, mentality, materiality cease. you will have seen the complete cessation of phenomena, that is, no further rebirth. Discerning in this way the five aggregates of the past, present, and future, and also discerning their causal relation, is what we call the fifth method taught by the Venerable Sariputta. Having completed it, you can now learn what we call the first method, the one taught by the Buddha. And again, I'm skipping over Table 3a, dependent origination from life to life, and many more footnotes. This last heading is called the first method. The first method of discerning dependent origination goes over 3 lives and in forward order. It begins with the causes in the past life, that is, ignorance and volitional formations. They cause the results in the present life. The resultant consciousnesses, beginning with the rebirth linking consciousness, mentality, materiality, the 6 sense bases, contact, and feeling. There are then the causes in this life, craving, clinging, and existence, which cause the results of birth, aging, death, and all forms of suffering in the future life. You have to try to find ignorance, craving, and clinging in the defilement round to see how it causes the karma round, and how the karmic potency of the karma round in turn causes the 5 aggregates at conception and in the course of existence. That concludes our brief explanation of how to discern dependent origination according to the 5th and 1st methods. There are many more details that you can learn by practicing with a proper teacher. When you have fully discerned the causal relationships between mentality, materiality, the past, present, and future, you will have completed the 2nd Vipassana knowledge, the cause apprehending knowledge. Questions and answers 6. Question 6.1. How should a yogi who practices anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, but who cannot see a nimitta, check himself physically and mentally so that he can improve and enter jhana? In other words, what are the conditions needed to have a nimitta? Answer 6.1. Constant practice is necessary in all types of meditation. In anapanasati, you should be mindful of the breath in every bodily posture and be so with respect. Walking, standing, or sitting, take no object apart from the breath. You should watch only the breath. Try to stop thinking. Try to stop talking. If you try continuously in this way, your concentration will slowly improve. Only deep, strong, and powerful concentration can produce a nimitta. Without a nimitta, especially the Pativanga nimitta, one cannot attain jhana because the anapana jhana's object is the anapana Pativanga nimitta. Question 6.2. Does the sitting posture affect the ability for beginners to concentrate and enter jhana? There are many yogis who sit on a small stool to meditate. Can they enter jhana? Answer 6.2. The sitting posture is best for beginners, but those who have enough parami in anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, can enter jhana in any posture. A skilled yogi, too, can enter jhana in any posture, so they can go into jhana sitting on a stool or chair. The Venerable Sariputta and the Venerable Subhuti are examples of this. The Venerable Sariputta was an expert in attainment of cessation, Nirodha Samapatti. When he went for alms in the village, he always entered the attainment of cessation at every house before accepting their offerings. He accepted the offerings only after having emerged from the attainment of cessation. That was his nature. The Venerable Subhuti was an expert in loving kindness meditation. He entered the loving kindness jhana also at every house before accepting offerings. After emerging from the loving kindness jhana, he accepted the offerings. Why did they do this? They wanted the donor to get the maximum benefit. They knew that if they did this, immeasurable and superior wholesome karma would occur in the donor's mental process. They had such loving kindness for the donors to want to do this. Thus, they were able to enter the attainment while in the standing posture. You should think about anapanajana in the same way. Question 6.3. What is the object of 4th anapanajana? If there is no breath in the 4th jhana, how can there be a nimitta? Answer 6.3. There is still a Pativanga nimitta in 4th anapanajana, although there is no in and out breath. That anapana Pativanga nimitta arose from the ordinary natural breath. This is why the object is still the in-out breath. Can one enter an immaterial jhana attainment, arupa jhana samapatti, or practice loving kindness meditation directly from anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing? Answer 6.4. One cannot enter an immaterial jhana attainment directly from the fourth anapana jhana. Why not? Immaterial jhanas, especially the base of boundless space jhana, are attained by removing a kasina object. After removing the kasina object and concentrating on the space left behind, the object of the base of boundless space jhana will appear. When one sees the space, one must extend it gradually, and when it extends in every direction, the kasina object will have disappeared. One must extend the space further out to the boundless universe. That is the object of the base of boundless space jhana, which in its turn is the object of the base of boundless consciousness jhana. The absence of the base of boundless space jhana is the object of the base of nothingness jhana, which is finally the object of the base of neither perception nor non-perception jhana. So the fourth immaterial jhanas are based on a fourth kasina jhana and its object. Without removing the kasina, one cannot go to the immaterial jhanas. So if a yogi practices anapanasati up to the fourth jhana and then wants to go to the immaterial jhanas, he should first practice one of the kasinas, except the space kasina, up to the fourth jhana. Only then can he go on to the immaterial jhana. If he wants to practice loving kindness meditation from the fourth anapana jhana, he can do so, no problem. He must see the person who is the object of loving kindness with the light of the fourth anapana jhana. If this light is not strong enough, it may be a little bit problematic, but that is exceptional. If after the fourth kasina jhana, especially the fourth white kasina jhana, he practices loving kindness, he may succeed quickly. That is why we teach white kasina meditation before loving kindness meditation. Question 6.5. How can one decide when to die, that is, choose the time of one's death? Answer 6.5. If you have practiced anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, up to the arhat path, you can know the exact time of your parinibbana. The Visuddhimagga mentions a Mahatera who attained parinibbana while walking. First he drew a line on his walking path, and then he told his fellow bhikkhus that he would attain parinibbana when reaching that line, and it happened exactly as he said. Those who are not arhats can know their lifespan if they have practiced dependent origination, the relationship between causes and effects of the past, present, and future, but not exactly like the Mahatera just mentioned. They do not know the exact time, maybe only the period in which they will die. But these people do not die and attain parinibbana according to their own wish. It is according to the law of karma. There is a stanza uttered by the Venerable Sariputta, and the Pali is translated thus: I do not delight in death, I do not delight in life, I await the time of parinibbana like a government servant waits for his wages. To die when one has desired to do so is called death by desire. This can usually be done by matured bodhisattvas only. Why do they do this? When they are reborn in the celestial realms where there is no opportunity to develop their parami, they do not want to waste time. So sometimes they decide to die and take rebirth in the human world to develop their parami, perfections. Question 6.6. If one day we were to die in an accident, for example in an air crash, could our mind at that time leave so that we would not have any bodily pain? How? Can one, depending on the power of one's meditation, be without fear at that time and be liberated? What degree of concentration is required? Answer 6.6. The degree of concentration required is that of the psychic powers of the supernormal powers. With those powers, you can escape from danger, but not if you have a matured, unwholesome kama ready to produce its result. You should remember the case of Venerable Mahamoggallana. He was an expert in psychic powers, but on the day when his unwholesome kama matured, he could not enter jhana. This was not because of defilements or hindrances, it was only because of his matured unwholesome kama. That is why the bandits were able to crush his bones to the size of rice grains. Thinking he was dead, the bandits left, and only then could he enter jhana again and regain his psychic powers. He made a determination, adhitthana, that his body should become whole again, and then went to request the Buddha for permission to attain parinibbana. Then he returned to his Kalisila monastery and attained parinibbana there. His matured unwholesome kama first produced its result, after which it lost its power, and only then could he regain his psychic powers. Thus, if you have no unwholesome kama about to mature and have psychic powers, you can't escape from an air crash, but ordinary jhana concentration and vipassana knowledge cannot save you from such a danger. We can in fact say that the reason why one meets with this type of accident in the first place may be that one's unwholesome kama is about to mature. The mind cannot leave the body because the mind arises dependent upon one of the 6 bases. The 6 bases are the eye base, ear base, the nose base, the tongue base, the body base, and the heart base. These 6 bases are your body. A mind cannot arise in this human world without a base. That is why the mind cannot leave the body. We can, however, suggest that if you have jhana, you should at the time of danger quickly enter jhana. That means you need to have fully developed the mastery of entering jhana. If you enter jhana at the time of danger, then that wholesome kama may save you, but we cannot say for sure. If you are in jhana at the moment of death, you may go up to one of the Brahma realms. If you're skilled in Vipassana, then you should practice it at the time of danger. You should discern the impermanent, anicca, suffering, dukkha, and non-self anatta nature of formation, sankhara, dhamma. If you can practice Vipassana thoroughly before death take place, you may attain one of the paths, magga, and fruitions, phala, and reach a happy realm after death. But if you attain arhatship, you attain parinibbana. Should you, however, not have psychic powers, nor jhana, nor be able to practice vipassana, you may still escape due to good kama alone. If you have good enough kama, which ensures a long life, there may also be a chance to escape from this danger, just like Mahajanaka Bodhisattva. He was the only person to survive a shipwreck. After swimming for 7 days and 7 nights, he was eventually saved by a deva. Question 6.7. After attaining the path in fruition, a noble one does not regress to becoming an ordinary person. This is a natural fixed law. Similarly, one who has received a definite prophecy cannot abandon his bodhisattva practice. This too is a natural fixed law. But the Buddha declared that everything is impermanent. Are these fixed laws in accordance with the law of impermanence? Answer 6.7. Here you should understand what is fixed and what is permanent. The law of karma says unwholesome karmas produce bad results and wholesome karmas produce good results. This is the natural law of karma. Does that mean that the wholesome and unwholesome karmas are permanent? Please think about it. If the wholesome karmas are permanent, then consider this. Now you are listening to Dhamma concerning the Buddha's Abhidhamma. This is called wholesome karma of listening to Dhamma. Is it permanent? Please think about it. If it were permanent, then during your whole life, you would have only this karma, no other. Do you understand? Wholesome karmas produce good results and unwholesome karmas produce bad results. This is a natural law, but it does not mean that the karmas are permanent. Wholesome volition and unwholesome volition are karma. As soon as they arise, they perish. They are impermanent. That is their nature. But the potency of karma, the capacity to produce the results of karma, still exists in the mentality-materiality process. Suppose there's a mango tree. Now, there is no fruit on the tree, but it is certain that one day it will bear fruit. This is a natural law. You could say the capacity to produce fruit exists in a tree. What is that capacity? If we study the leaves, branches, bark and stems, we cannot see it. But that does not mean it does not exist, because one day that tree will produce fruit. In the same way, we do not say wholesome and unwholesome karma are permanent. We say the potency of karma exists in the mentality materiality process as a capacity, and that one day when the potency matures, it will produce its result. Let us now discuss the natural fixed law. We say path and fruition dhammas are dhammas of a fixed natural law, but we do not say they are permanent. They are also impermanent. But the potency of path knowledge exists in the mentality materiality process of those who have attained a path, fruition, and nibbana. That potency exists because of a natural fixed law and has a natural result. For example, the potency of stream entry path results in the stream entry fruition, and it is a contributing cause for higher and higher fruitions, but it cannot result in lower fruitions. This is also a law of nature. Here you should think about this. To attain arhatship is not easy. You have to practice with great effort. Strong and powerful perseverance is necessary. For example, in his past life, our Shakyamuni Bodhisattva practiced very hard for over 6 years to attain arhatship associated with omniscient knowledge. You can imagine how hard it was. So if after attaining arhatship with enormous difficulty, he became an ordinary person again, what would be the fruit of the practice? You should think about this carefully. In this connection, let us look at when a bodhisattva can receive a definite prophecy. He can receive a definite prophecy when the following 8 conditions are fulfilled. Number 1, Manu Satanam, he is a human being. Number 2, Linga Sampati, he is a male. 3, Hetu, cause or root, he has sufficient parami to attain arhatship while listening to a Buddha under a short stanza related to the Four Noble Truths. That means he must have practiced Vipassana thoroughly up to the formation's equanimity knowledge. Number 4, Satara Dasanam, sight of the master, he meets a Buddha. 5, Bhaja, going forth, he has gone forth as a hermit or bhikkhu and has strong and firm faith in the law of karma. Number 6, Guna Sampati, achievement of qualities, he has acquired the 8 attainments, Samapati, and 5 mundane psychic powers. Number 7, Akikaro, aspiration, he has sufficient parami to receive a definite prophecy from a Buddha. That means he must in previous lives have practiced the parami necessary for attaining omniscient knowledge. In other words, he must have sowed the seeds of knowledge and conduct for omniscient knowledge in a previous Buddha's dispensation. According to the Yasadhara Apadana, the future Prince Siddhartha had made the wish to attain, and the future Princess Yasadhara had made the wish for him to attain omniscient knowledge in the presence of many billions of Buddhas and had developed all the parami under their guidance. And one way in which he developed his parami was to make a bridge of himself for Dipankara Buddha and 100,000 bhikkhus to cross, knowing that this act would cost him his life. 8. Chandata, desire. He has a sufficiently strong desire to attain omniscient knowledge. How strong is that desire? Suppose the whole world system were burning charcoal. If someone told him that he would obtain omniscient knowledge by crossing the burning charcoal from one end to the other, he would go across the burning charcoal without hesitation. Here we ask you, would you go across that burning charcoal? If not the whole world system, then if just from Taiwan to Pa-Auk, if it were all burning charcoal, would you go across it? If it were certain that one could obtain omniscient knowledge that way, the bodhisattva would go across that burning charcoal. That is the strength of his desire for omniscient knowledge. If these 8 factors are present in a bodhisattva, he will certainly receive a definite prophecy from a Buddha. They were present in our Shakyamuni Bodhisattva when he was the hermit Sumedha at the time of Dipankara's Buddha. That is why he received a definite prophecy from Dipankara Buddha with the words, "You shall obtain omniscient knowledge after 4 incalculables and 100,000 aeons, and shall bear the name Gotama." Now, what does it mean that the prophecy is definite? It is definite because it cannot be changed. That does not mean it is permanent. Dipankara Buddha's mentality, materiality were impermanent. Sumedha's mentality, materiality were also impermanent. This is a fact, but the potency of Kama, especially the kamic potency of his parami, could not perish so long as he had not attained omniscient knowledge. Dipankara Buddha's words, that is the definite prophecy, could not be changed and could not be false. If those words were changed so that the definite prophecy was not true, then there would be another problem, namely that the Buddha would have uttered false speech. A Buddha gives a definite prophecy only when he sees that the previously mentioned 8 conditions have been fulfilled. For example, if a skillful farmer saw a banana tree that was under the right conditions, he would be able to tell you that the tree was going to bear fruit in 4 months. Why? Because he was skilled in agriculture and he saw flowers and small leaves growing out from the tree. In the same way, when someone has fulfilled the 8 conditions, a Buddha can see that he will attain the fruition of omniscient knowledge, which is why he makes a definite prophecy. At the time of Dipankara Buddha, our Shakyamuni Bodhisattva was the hermit Sumedha, an ordinary person. As Prince Siddhartha, before attaining enlightenment, he was still an ordinary person. Only after his enlightenment did he become Shakyamuni Buddha. After attaining the Arhat path associated with omniscient knowledge, he could not change his Arhat path. This is a natural fixed law. Here, fixed law means that the result of that Arhat path cannot change. This does not mean that the Arhat path is permanent. It means that its result comes because of a potency of Kama that cannot change. What does this mean exactly? It means that it is certain the Arhat path will produce Arhat fruition, and certain that it will destroy all the defilements, all the unwholesome Kama, and all the wholesome Kama, which would otherwise have produced their result after the Parinibbana. This law of Kama is called a natural fixed law and cannot be changed. So a natural fixed law and a definite prophecy are not contrary to the law of impermanence. Here again, a further comment is necessary. Making an aspiration or wish alone is not enough to attain omniscient knowledge. When a bodhisattva receives a definite prophecy, the 8 conditions must already be fulfilled. Moreover, a definite prophecy alone cannot produce Buddhahood. Even after the definite prophecy, they must continue to develop the 10 parami on the 3 levels. Number 1, the 10 basic parami, that is, offering their sons, daughters, and wives as external property. Number 2, the 10 medium parami, that is, offering their limbs and organs such as eyes and hands. Number 3, the 10 superior parami, that is, offering their life. Altogether, there are 30 parami. If we summarize them, we have just number 1, offering, number 2, morality, sila, number 3, meditation, bhavana, samatha, and vipassana. They are superior wholesome kamas. Bodhisattvas must perfect them by giving up animate and inanimate property, their limbs and their lives. If you believe you're a bodhisattva, can you and will you perfect these parami? If you can, and if you also have received a definite prophecy from a Buddha, then you shall one day attain omniscient knowledge. But according to the Theravada teachings, only one Buddha can appear at one given time. And for how long must they perfect their parami? After he received his definite prophecy, our Shakyamuni Bodhisattva developed the parami for 4 incalculables and 100,000 aeons. This is the shortest time. But we cannot say exactly how long it takes prior to the definite prophecy. You should remember, making an aspiration or wish alone is not enough to become a Buddha. Question 6.8. When an ordinary disciple has practiced samana vipassana up to the cause apprehending knowledge, the arise and perish knowledge, or the formations equanimity knowledge, he will not be reborn in any of the 4 willful realms. Even if he loses his samatha vipassana due to negligence, the karma of having practiced samana vipassana still exists. The Sutta Nugata Sutta says also that he will attain nibbana quickly. So, why did the Sayadaw in the question and answer session of June 2nd say that a bodhisattva who has received a definite prophecy from a Buddha can, even if he has practiced meditation up to the formations equanimity knowledge, be reborn in a woeful state? In which sutta is this mentioned? Answer 6.8. This is because the Bodhisattva way and ordinary disciple way are not the same. You can find this in the Buddha Vamsa and the Charya Pitaka Pali text. How are the 2 ways different? Although Bodhisattva has received a definite prophecy from a Buddha, his parami have at that time not yet matured for him to obtain omniscient knowledge. He must cultivate his parami further. For example, after receiving the definite prophecy from Dipankara Buddha, our Shakyamuni Bodhisattva had to continue cultivating his parami for 4 incalculables and 100,000 aeons. Between the definite prophecy and the penultimate life, a bodhisattva is sometimes reborn in the animal kingdom because of previous unwholesome karma. At this time, he is still unable to totally destroy that unwholesome karmic potency. So when those unwholesome karmas mature, he cannot escape their results. This is a law of nature. But ordinary disciples who have attained the cause apprehending knowledge and the arise and perish knowledge or the formations equanimity knowledge have parami mature enough to attain the path knowledge and fruition knowledge. For this reason, they attain path and fruition. That is, see nibbana in this life or in their subsequent future life. This is also a law of nature. Question 6.9. An arhat can also give a definite prophecy. What is the definition of definite prophecy here? In which sutta or other source can this information be found? Answer 6.9. For that, please refer to the Buddha Vamsa Pali, Chronicle of Buddhas, and the Apadana Pali, Valorous Deeds. But only arhats who possess particularly the knowledge of the future, a power secondary to the divine eye, can give a definite prophecy. And they can see only a limited number of lives into the future, and may not, and not many incalculables or aeons as can a Buddha. Question 6.10. Can one practice vipassana while in the base of neither perception or non-perception attainment? In which sutta or other source can the answer be found? Answer 6.10. One cannot practice vipassana while in any jhana attainment, and the base of neither perception or non-perception is a jhana. Why? Because in developing vipassana, we usually do not use the same objects we use for developing jhana. Also, jhana we develop by concentrating on one and the same object. For example, the anapana or kasina nimitta, where vipassana we develop examining different objects. For example, the object of the anapana jhanas is the anapana pativanga nimitta, a concept, not ultimate reality. But the object of vipassana is not a concept, it is ultimate mentality, materiality, and their causes, including the jhana dhammas, for example, the 34 material formations of the first jhana, the 32 mental formations of the second jhana, the 31 mental formations of the third, fourth, and immaterial jhanas. Only after having emerged from the jhana can one practice vipassana meditation on, for example, the jhana consciousness and its associated mental factors, in this case, the 31 mental formations. It is mentioned in the Anupada Sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya. There, the Buddha describes in detail the Venerable Sariputta's meditation in the 15 days after he had attained stream entry. The Venerable Sariputta entered, for example, the first jhana. He emerged from it and discerned the 34 first jhana mental formations, one by one, as impermanence, suffering, and non-self, by seeing their arising, static, and perishing stages. He discerned in this manner up to the base of nothingness jhana. This is vipassana of consecutive dhammas, in which the mental formations are discerned one by one. But when he reached the base of neither perception nor non-perception, he could discern only the mental formations as a group. This is vipassana of comprehension in groups. Only a Buddha can discern the mental formations of the base of neither perception nor non-perception one by one. Because they are extremely subtle, even a chief disciple like Venerable Sariputta cannot discern them one by one. Question 6.11. Can a person who is mentally abnormal, hears voices, has schizophrenia, a brain disease, stroke, or malfunction of the brain and nerves practice this type of meditation? If he can, what kinds of precautions should he take? Answer 6.11. Such people can practice this type of meditation, but usually they do not succeed because they cannot concentrate long enough. By long enough is meant that when one's concentration is strong and powerful, it must be maintained for many hours and many sittings. Usually such people's concentration is inconstant. This is a problem. They may succeed if they can maintain their concentration over many successive sittings, over many days or many months. There's a famous example in the case of Pa-Auk. Her husband, 2 children, parents, and brothers all died on the same day. She went mad with grief and wandered about with no clothes on. One day she came to the Jetavana monastery in Savatthi where the Buddha was teaching Dhamma. Her parami of previous lives were ready to mature. Due to this, as well as to the loving kindness and compassion of the Buddha, she was able to listen to the Dhamma with respect. Slowly her mind became quiet and she understood the Dhamma. Very soon she became a stream enterer. She ordained as a bhikkhuni and continued her meditation. She could maintain her concentration and vipassana knowledge, and one day her meditation matured. She became an arhat with the 5 mundane psychic powers and 4 analytical knowledges. Of the bhikkhunis who were expert in the monastic rule, she was first. She observed the rule very strictly and learnt it by heart, including the commentaries. She had been developing her parami from Padumuttara Buddha's dispensation till Kassapa Buddha's dispensation, and particularly during Kassapa's Buddha's dispensation. At that time, she was the daughter of King Kiki. She practiced Kumari Brahmacharya for 20,000 years. Kumari Brahmacharya is to observe the 5 precepts, but in place of the ordinary precept of abstinence from sexual misconduct, complete chastity is observed. She cultivated the 3 trainings, morality, sila, concentration, samadhi, and wisdom, panya, as a lay devotee for 20,000 years. Those parami matured in Gautama Buddha's dispensation. So, although she had gone mad, she was able to regain her mind, practice the 3 trainings well, and become an arhat. When they practice meditation, such people need kalyanamitta, which is good teachers, good friends, and spiritual friends. Proper medicine and proper food also helps. From our experience, we know that most of them cannot maintain their concentration for a long time. Usually, they do not succeed. Question 6.12. If a person who does not have good human relations succeeds in attaining the fourth jhana, will this improve his skills in communicating with others? Can attaining jhana correct such problems? Answer 6.12. The problems occur usually because of hatred, dosa. It is one of the hindrances. As long as a person is unable to change this attitude, he cannot attain jhana. But if he can remove this attitude, he can attain not only jhana, but also the paths and fruitions up to arhatship. A famous example is the Venerable Channathera. He was born on the same day as our Bodhisattva in the palace of King Suddhodana in Pilavatu. He was the son of one of King Suddhodana's female slaves. He became one of the Bodhisattva Prince Siddharthana's playmates when they were young. This gave later rise to much conceit in him. He thought things like, "This is my king. The Buddha was my playmate. The Dhamma is our Dhamma. When he renounced the world, I followed him up to the bank of Anoma River. No one else did. Sariputta and Moggallana, etc., are flowers that blossomed later, etc." Because of this, he always used harsh language. He did not show respect to Mahateras like Venerable Sariputta and Venerable Moggallana and others, so no one had friendly relations with him. He could not attain jhana or path and fruition in the Buddha's lifetime, because he was unable to remove his conceit and hatred. On the night of the Buddha's parinibbana, the Buddha told Venerable Ananda to mete out the noble punishment on the Venerable Channa. It means that no one was to talk to the Venerable Channa, even if he wanted to. When nobody talked with the Venerable Channa, his conceit and hatred disappeared. This act of the Sangha took place in the Gosatarama monastery in Kosambi 5 months after the Buddha's parinibbana. The Venerable left Gositarama and went to the Isipatana monastery in the Deer Park near Benares. He worked hard on the meditation, but was, in spite of great effort, not successful. So one day he went to the Venerable Ananda and asked him to help him. Why was he not successful? He discerned the impermanent suffering and non-self nature of the 5 aggregates without discerning dependent origination. So the Venerable Ananda taught him how to discern dependent origination and taught him the Kachanagata Sutta. After listening to the Venerable Ananda's Dhamma talk, the Venerable Channa attained stream entry. He continued his practice and very soon became an arhat. So if a person can change his bad character and practice samatha vipassana in the right way, he can attain jhana, path, and fruition. This ends Talk 6 by the Venerable Pa-Auk Sayadaw in the book Knowing and Seeing.